I mean, when you go and you look at real European history, right? You had the Magyars would believe that if they took a bath, it was bad.
Right.
They didn't even want to change their clothes. They thought that dirty was purity. When we talk about the Moors going into Spain and into Europe, the stories in the history, our history, says that when we met the so-called Caucasian, he was sleeping in the barn with the animals, and we told him, no, you can't sleep in the barn with animals. We taught them etiquette. We taught them running water. We brought that technology to Europe. Now, if we brought the technology to Europe that saved Europe from the Black Plague, you mean to tell me that if we saved the white race, that we weren't already in America already? When we brought the technology? When Rome was dependent on Africa for food? Remember when the Black Plague hit Rome? The cause was one of the officials was stealing the grain that was coming from Africa. So there was famine hit Rome. If your source of sustenance is from Africa, how are you superior? You're not. You get your food from me. So if you get your food from me, who's more likely to travel this globe? Me, I'm the source of food. And that's the first thing you need to survive on this planet. So if your whole civilization is dependent on me to supply food, I made it to America first. It's just that you won the war and you got to tell the story. What kinds of food did they have?
Well, I don't know.
It's very rudimentary. It was a very rudimentary civilization. It wasn't all what is cracked up to be. When you go look at what the Greeks said about Egypt, when they go into Egypt, it's like, it's like the New York City of that time.
The ultimate. If you really want to talk about African civilization being advanced, Egypt is the ultimate, because Egypt to this day is still unexplained. No one really understands how they built those things. No one understands how old the culture is. That's another thing that Graham Hancock and Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University, who's a geologist, he's pointing to water erosion and the Temple of the Sphinx that leads you to believe that that place might have been as old as 9,000 plus BC. So,
it absolutely is.
Yeah, well,
if not older, going back to Pharaoh Ramses.
There's also different styles of architecture, right? There's older styles of architecture they find deeper in the sand. They think it might have been indicative of an earlier kingdom. And then there's also the Nubian structures of some of the faces, particularly the Sphinx.
Yeah.
The Sphinx, they believe, had a lion's face, and then when they were conquered by the Nubians, they changed the actual structure of the face of the Sphinx and turned it into a king's face.
Well, the way it was taught to me was that there's Upper and Lower Egypt. So Upper Egypt is actually our New South, right? That's our South. And what the way it was taught to me was that was the mind of Egypt, and the economic section of Egypt was what we see Giza pyramids. And it's economic because if you look at it, it sits between 3 continents on the Mediterranean Sea. So it's a perfect place to carry out commerce. It's the perfect place. That's why everybody wants to be there. That's why there's a war in the Middle East, because it's a perfect place to be. You know what I mean?
So do you believe that some Africans came over here in slave ships, or none?
Very minimal. It just does not make sense logistically to take people from all the way from over there to bring them here, especially when half your stock is going to die, when you got people right here. You have human resources right here. All I got to do is pop them, shoot a couple of them, the rest of them are like, all right, fine, and you enslave them. And none of them die except for the ones I actually killed, right? I got a whole millions of people right here. Like, why would I go all the way across the ocean to bring people back across the ocean? It just doesn't make sense. It's just stupid. Nobody run a business like that.
So a small percentage of all the Africans that were enslaved were actually shipped to North America.
That's probably close to the truth. They ain't come from Africa, bro. That don't make no sense. Nobody run a business like that.
There was probably already a significant population of Africans that were sea-bearing that made it all the way over here.
Yes.
Well, if you listen to the words of Hancock and the discussion of prehistoric, what we would consider prehistoric use of boats and ships, it's probably likely.
Like, look at ancient Egypt. Don't you see pictures of boats?
Oh yeah. So they would bury them. I mean, if you could, there was the what is the big science museum in LA that had the Egypt exhibit? really recently. It's fucking incredible. But they had a depiction of the boats that they used.
Yeah.
I mean, they had boats, for sure. They definitely traveled.
So how can you tell me that a civilization had boats before Europe was literate, didn't come to America, didn't set up shop? It's just not common. I mean, I don't need to read a book to understand that.
But definitely makes sense if they made it to South America. I mean, if the Olmecs were, I mean, if you pull up an image of the Olmec heads, this is heavily disputed.
John Henry Clark is an author you should study. John Henry Clark has a book, They Come Before Columbus.
I mean, look at that. Look at these Olmec heads. Yeah. They all looked like that.
Yeah, that's South America.
Yeah.
So
it's
if you have
amazing.
There has to be a large population of people in order to create these things, right?
Yeah.
It has to be, these have to be advanced. So if they're here already in South America, why you gonna go across the sea when you got people right here you can just enslave? South America is connected to America. You think we didn't come up north? You think we didn't take that whoop?
Right.
That's just common sense.
Well, particularly when they're finding all this evidence of people that were here thousands and thousands of years before they ever thought people were.
Yeah. Or the evidence in the Grand Canyon from Egypt.
What? I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
what's that?
You heard about that?
I've heard of it, yeah. There might be some gold down there.
Oh.
Yeah, is this
Egyptian gold in the Grand Canyon?
Hey.
Imagine if they found a fucking Egyptian tomb in the Grand Canyon.
There's Egyptian stuff that's been found in Ohio.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking some stuff up, but my grandma's telling me, I went home and looked up the Serpent Mound stuff, and like right up the road from where the Serpent Mound is, there's been a couple artifacts found there, like 100 years
Egyptian
ago.
artifacts.
They're called mounds.
Pull that up. Yeah.
There's mounds in America, which supposed to be like pyramids or whatever. So
there's even in Egypt, Ohio. I don't think it's named after that, but it's literally like in the same spot.
Wow.
Yeah,
The history of human travel is fucking fascinating.
We've circumnavigated this globe before, man. This isn't new stuff. It's new to Europe. It wasn't new to the African race, man. We've been here. They got the mounds, the archaeological evidence from Egypt and the Grand Canyon. It's right there.
See, I've never heard that before. That is interesting. The archaeological evidence in the Grand Canyon.
Because it's not part of his story. He's got to keep you thinking. He's got to keep the black people thinking you were slaves and you came from Africa on boats. That's what they got to keep you thinking.
But you really think that there's some sort of a grand conspiracy to withhold information?
Yeah.